Hey, what's going on? Welcome. It's a drink with Derek. Derek Richards, your host, and look at you, Roy Wood Jr. How are you, my friend?
How the hell are you, man?
You look awesome.
I don't know about that. I'm okay.
You look great,
I
man. Been
got
a
my
long
fatherhood
time.
gray coming in there. It's looking good, man. It's fun. Fun times up here in New York City, living the life in the quarantine. What's crazy is living in New York because it's so bad here and it's not
Right.
as bad other places. I don't have a scope of the rest of the world. And I wonder if I'm Randy Quaid in Independent today, where I'm the aliens, the aliens. I'm telling you, the virus, and everybody else is like, "Fuck you! I'm going to the beach," and I'm not sure which one of us is the crazy one or not.
Yeah, I mean, I live here in Nevada in Las Vegas, and we've had literally, I think, as of the other day, 217, 220 deaths, and you guys had probably 220 deaths in your on your block.
Oh, we knocked that out. Yeah, I think New York is at 15,000. It might be 75,000. Is it 70,000?
I have no idea.
17,000. I think it's 17,000. I remember a seven. This is the Price is Right. I'm gonna go lower. A little lower than 75,000.
I'm in Vegas. I'm going to tell you to take the under.
Have you seen what the casinos are already beta testing with plexiglass partitions at the blackjack tables, where basically each player chair has like a plexiglass, whatever the fuck, coming like right beside you,
I have not seen that.
but a crack under the bottom. You reach under the crack. That's how you get your cards and slide your chips in and out. But if you're still touching other people's chips,
Right.
and everybody's and then touching the cards, bitch, what? You ain't solved shit.
It's like you're playing. It's like you're playing. You're playing cards at while you're visiting your uncle in lockup.
Yeah, that's literally what it is. It's like it looks like you're playing blackjack through the window at a check cashing place. It just you went to cash a check at a Western Union, and then the guy was like, "Fuck it, let's play for
Let's
it."
play. Nobody's in line. I got a deck of
Yeah.
cards. Let's do this.
Yeah, that's literally what it looks like, man. But
Yeah, they got
imagine
all kinds of options. What they're looking at in terms of only having seating so many people at tables, and I mean it'll be interesting to see how this all
that'll
ends
kill the
up
money. You
unfolding.
can't go from a 6-man black. I think blackjack is a 5-person table. I think no, it's 6.
I think it's 5 or 6. I can't recall off the top of my head. I
You're
think
not
6.
you're not making nearly as much money if you're not seating that 5th and 6th person. 4
Right.
people for spacing, but I just think certain casinos like there's certain tables at certain casinos that allow smoking. They
Right.
allow you to eat at the table. So you just gotta have a fuck it, man. This the COVID table, and I'm
Deal.
playing COVID blackjack, and you give those people double drink. Yeah,
The COVID blackjack
yeah,
table.
I'm playing COVID craps or some shit. Like, you think they're gonna have a bucket of Listerine to dip dice in? No, they're gonna give you the same dice that some hacking motherfucker just touched and crapped out on. So we're all trying to find solutions, and in these troubling times, it is important that we acknowledge the efforts that companies are going forward with to maintain a safe and healthy atmosphere.
Look at you doing your audition to be a spokesperson.
But that plexiglass shit ain't gonna work.
No, it's not. Dude, you and I have known each other a long time, man. It's always good to see you. Great to catch up with you here in Vegas last December when you were in town. And I met you back in Tallahassee when you were going to school at Florida A&M, and you were hanging out at the Comedy Zone. Had a little weekend room over there.
So I started in '98. I was still in college at Florida A&M, and the thing that I really took for granted at the Comedy Zone, for the people who don't know, like stand-up comedy is kind of like professional baseball. You have your major league rooms with your star players that come in Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you have the AAA and the AA ball where there's up and comers, and then there's lifers, and there's guys who really should have quit the game 10 fucking years ago.
Right.
So Tallahassee was an interesting place to kind of really lay my feet down. I was doing open mics once a month back home in Birmingham, but the bulk of my stage time came in Florida my first 3 years because that's
Right.
where I lived. And so you see a lot of stand-up week to week. I was the house MC, so every third week I MC'd, and even on weeks that I didn't MC, I came and watched. It was the classroom. I came and watched shows, and then I would sometimes do a guest set. So I saw every genre of comedy you could name, every person on the way up, on the way down. And then when you get older, it gave me a great point of reference of what I did or didn't want to do stylistically.
No, definitely. I think that's something that's really missing a lot today with comedians, where a lot of the up and coming talent, they don't hang out at the clubs. They end up getting caught and doing their own little open mic circuit type thing. And at least here in Vegas, I mean, a lot of the clubs are more than welcome to have people come in and hang out in the back. But you don't see them doing that like you doing what you did in Tallahassee when you were learning what you were doing.
The thing is that it depends on the market. A lot of clubs treat the new comics like shit and don't want them in there. They charge them for a drink, or they tell them to go stand out in the hall so you don't get to watch, and the room's not even sold out, but you still don't want the comics in there. So yeah, I think
that's garbage.
I also think that a lot of the open micers stylistically go against what the club owner might want.
Right.
So how long are you going to keep trying to kiss some dude's ass to get 5 minutes once a month when you can say, fuck it, I'll go to a bar and do 10 minutes every week? True. At least you're getting stronger. That's what a good example of that is Nashville, where the local scene in Nashville started booming once comedians realized that, you know, Brian Dorfman, who runs the A room there in Nashville, there wasn't enough stage time. And it wasn't that Dorfman was hating on the locals.
Oh, yeah.
There just wasn't enough.
Sure.
There's not enough. There's only so many spots on the fucking show I can give out.
Right.
So as the local scene grew, they just started doing all of their own little things around town. And the dope thing that Dorfman did was he supported the shit. He supported local comics going and getting time because he knew you're going to go across town and get better, and then you'll come here when it's time to really show your shit that's polished. The audience,
that makes sense.
But there's a lot of club owners and a lot of smaller markets that will get mad at you if you dare perform anywhere else but their fucking comedy hut.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that if we're looking for some weird silver lining in the midst of the COVID quarantine, blah, 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 the comedy clubs that do not survive this, the comedy club markets that do not survive this, the comics that still live there will have to create their own ecosystem for stage time.
Right.
When a new club comes into that market to establish themselves as the big dog and they got all the corporate money, they're not going to be able to do that shit to the new comics because the ecosystem was here before you, bitch. So now you have to respect the fact that these comics work everywhere around town. And I think that's going to make for a better show for the audiences as well, because these new clubs, they're not going to be able to afford to fly in feature acts. And they're just not.
No.
So you need better acts that are local. There's a club in Oklahoma City that I think is opening up in May. And they're doing temperature checks, but they're only running the room at 35% capacity to keep social distancing.
Right.
That room was built, bought, and leased on that bitch being 100% capacity. So if you only selling 35% of the room, you could barely bring in a solid headliner from out of town.
Well, and I think a lot of that too is going to go away once this dissipates. I mean, I think it's going to be, they're going to do the social distancing thing to a point, and then it's going to eventually, I think, ebb off of that. And I think it's just going to be personal responsibility on behalf of people, whether they're going to want to come out to a show or go to a sporting event or go to a play, or they don't want to go. You know, if they're freaking out about being in that environment, then, stay home.
Okay, so then the question becomes for the comedy clubs in the interim, do you have the money to ride out people's fears until they're comfortable being packed in shoulder to shoulder? And I think that's what remains to be seen. But, God bless any comedian that's starting. I know a girl that quit her job in March to go full time.
Ugh.
She quit. Her last day at work was the week before the fucking quarantine started. Oh. Welcome to stand up.
And her job was selling bleach.
door-to-door bleach salesman, like the milkman. Let's bring it back.
You could do that now.
Yeah, you
Dude,
probably
what
could.
was your, like I said, you and I have known each other a long time. You went from you're from Birmingham, went down to Florida A&M, where you went to school, hung out in Tallahassee at the Comedy Zone. Now you're a correspondent on the Daily Show with Trevor Noah. You've had a couple Comedy Central specials. The trek from Tallahassee to New York City, where you're at now, I mean, did you just pack up and move up there, or did you go to LA first and find an agent? I mean, what transpired?
All right, so I graduate school 01. I move home. I start doing morning radio. While doing morning radio, I'm still working the road. If the performance is 5 hours or less from Birmingham, I commute. That way I can keep the radio job during the day. So I would get off stage at 10:30 at night in, say, Louisville, and I would get back in my car and drive 5 hours back to Birmingham, sleep at the station, do the morning show, take a 2-hour nap, drive the fuck back to Louisville, do the shows that wash, rinse, repeat. So I did that for a couple of years. The pivot, I'd say after 01, the next pivot was 2006. I got Letterman. And when you do David Letterman, that's a TV credit that can kind of put you on the industry radar. Should we give him a sitcom? Call him in. Let us talk to this Negro and see if he's worthy of a show. So when you find out that you've been beckoned.
Is that how they said it?
Yeah.
They rub their chin like a guy who just tied a woman to the railroad tracks.
Come look at this one. Could he be another Steve Harvey? We don't know. Call him in for a meeting. So I moved to LA 07. I do my auditions. I keep working the road. And LA wasn't bad, but knowing what I know now, my stand-up suffered because I wasn't getting on stage as often. Because LA, there's so many more elements to making it that require you to be connected, hang out at other spots. And even if you're doing sets, you can't get up as often as you want because the city's too sprawled. I do Last Comic Stand in 2010, and I get a job offer to come back home to Birmingham to host a morning show, same one that I used to work at as a co-host and intern. So the idea was I'll do the morning show, but then I'll grow it to syndication, and then I'll be able to backdoor my way back onto the road with the strength of what I'm doing on the morning show.
Right.
So that was the strategy. I'm still back and forth to LA. I'm dabbling in LA, but for the most part, I'm back in Birmingham, 2010, 2011. I auditioned for a sitcom. It was the last thing I did before I left LA to go do my morning show. I auditioned for a sitcom. I book it. We shoot the pilot. The pilot doesn't, for whatever reason, it's taking too long for the network to decide. So, all right, fuck y'all. I'm going to Birmingham to do radio. I ain't got time for this shit.
I'm so stunned to hear that. A network that wasn't sure on what they wanted to do.
Get a call like 5 months later from my man, Steve Byrne. Hey, man, good news. TBS picked up the show. We're making a sitcom. Need you back in LA. Yeah, I kind of have a job now. So I go to my boss. I go, look, I need 10 weeks to go to LA to shoot this sitcom. Let me go to LA. Give me a satellite box. I'll do the show at 3 a.m. from the hotel. So I figured they wouldn't agree to the shit, but they was like, cool. So I go out. We do Sullivan and Son on TBS. We shoot the first season. Radio is fine. Season airs. While the season's airing, I'm back in Birmingham doing radio. I'm on the road on the weekends. And then I get a call from Steve Byrne. Hey, good news. We got picked up for season 2. Need you to come back to LA. So I go back to my boss and I go, hey man, look, I know it wasn't the greatest time with me being gone for 3 months when we're a local morning show and I should be out in the community at every community event, considering I'm the
Right.
host of the most popular morning show in the state. And I need to go back to LA for 3 months. And they said, you're fired.
Woo, yeah.
And it was mutual. It was
Sure.
understood. It wasn't drama.
I can see that.
But when I looked at what the long game was for me, it was to do television, to use that as a conduit to produce content, to get out on the road more, you know? So I couldn't say no to being on television when that was the whole fucking point of moving to LA in the first place.
Well, exactly. And radio is such a slippery slope. You never know what can happen with that industry. I mean, that is probably more volatile than television.
1,000%. And I don't say this out of arrogance as much as I say it out of market analysis, but radio is also one of those jobs. If you have done it well at any point in your career, you will always have an opportunity to come back into a station because of that point. It's volatile. People get fired. Markets change. The stations flip formats
constantly.
So there's always going to be there will be more opportunities down the road in radio than there ever will be in TV. So I see y'all later.
Right.
I'm going to go do TV. Do Sullivan's Son back in LA for a couple of years. It gets canceled. And at this point, we're 2015. So we're pretty much right up on the Daily Show. There's about a year where Sullivan's Son is canceled, and I'm back adrift in LA, as I would like to call it, where I'm getting some auditions, but nothing's really going the way I think it should go. So I make the decision to get ready to move to New York. During this time, I started doing spots on Sports Nation on ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
And that got me more spots on other shows. This is when ESPN from 12 to 6 was just debate shows.
Sure.
Just motherfuckers are arguing all the time. And so they put me on a couple of the shows. Around that same time, Jon Stewart steps down from Daily Show. Trevor Noah steps in. Neil Brennan kind of pulls Trevor to the side and goes, yo, there's this guy from Birmingham. You should give him a look. And so that was enough to get the audition. The stuff that I've been doing on ESPN was also enough to put the producers at ease that, all right, he can handle himself on television and argue and talk, because that's what the Daily Show is to a greater degree. When the correspondents are on with Trevor, we're arguing. It's a more structured, formal back and forth, but it is two sides of a coin.
Right.
Being presented. So that was it, man. Did the audition, got the call on the way to the airport that I'd be a part of the Daily Show with Trevor Noah, and been in New York ever since. And I got the call that I was getting the Daily Show, and then 2 months after that, my girl called me and was like, I'm pregnant. And I was like, okay, well, life just fucking went into fifth gear. Like, I have a degree in broadcast. I have 20 years in stand-up, and I finally get the job that literally merges those two disciplines. Like,
sure,
I finally get the job that I'm made for.
Right.
And then find out that I have another job that I'm completely horrified and unprepared to hold, which is that of father, which even now, 4 years in, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, man.
4-year-old son. It's stunner to me. What's your, as a dad, having owned this car now for 4 years, what advice do you give for a parent today, or a parent or someone who's about to become a parent?
My goal with my son has just been to teach him as much as I can before the world teaches it to him. So as far as I'm concerned, if he can comprehend and process it, it's not too soon to learn it. That's the cool thing about this e-learning, is that the school sends us all this curriculum and all of this stuff, and that stuff's cool. But then I'm also like, you know what? Fuck it. You need to know about tornadoes. They might fuck you up one day. Lay down in the ditch. Go to the center of the house. And so I don't know if it's time to learn inclement weather, but we sat and watch. But then he gets in the bathtub and he sees the water going down the drain. He goes, it's a funnel, like a tornado. And I'm like, yes, you're learning shit. It's like, this is good. But
well, that's yeah. And I think that's important for any kind of, I don't have any kids. I have one fake plant. So
it's just weird because you teach a child. We've been teaching them about the concept of consent, where I was raised where kids could just hug anybody, speak to anybody, but we're trying to literally teach him before you invade someone's space, before you make physical contact with the person.
right.
Just because I don't know what kind of school he's going to end up at, where Henry gave someone a hug and they didn't want to be hugged, and he assaulted her. I'm like, he's 4, and then my son is on TV in cuffs like a first grader, So you don't know how far left. Dude, they're cuffing kindergartners now. Shit's crazy. So hey, man, don't touch nobody until they say it's okay to be. So you're teaching them that, right?
Right.
Then COVID happens, and now I'm like, hey, man, fuck everybody. Don't touch nobody.
Right.
Just, hey, ask for a hug, and now it's, hey, man, fuck hugs altogether. Don't even talk to people you don't recognize. Just shut up. So
you are turning your 4-year-old son into the crotchety old man that you are right now.
Something like that. Bro, I'm kind of embarrassed. I gotta get him drawing like Paw Patrol or something. We were doing arts and crafts yesterday. He goes, I want to draw a tornado with debris. And I was like, oh. I was like, in a way, I was proud, but then part of me like,
I want to draw a tornado with debris. Now that would be
the house. That's not what you want him to do.
What he wishes would be in the tornado.
Let's hope he doesn't get that far. And go, here's the cow.
Here's your tornado, and then here's a cat and a white supremacist, and then and then a pickup truck, and then like food that he hates. That's all in the tornado. Yeah. It's like in his mind, this is stuff that needs to be destroyed.
You know what I need to do? I need to let him watch Twister with Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
Understood, except for that terrible last scene of the movie where they survive the center of a tornado, but that's a separate conversation.
Yeah, that's fiction. Dude, you're a huge sports fan. Obviously, you've had a lot of time on ESPN. I know anybody that follows you on social media knows you're a monster Cubs fan.
Yeah.
How did you become a Cubs fan? You grew up in Birmingham. I know the Double-A farm team, that's for the White Sox, the Birmingham Barons. How did you end up what drew you to the Cubs? Because was this a lifetime thing? Because that's something to jump onto, because the Cubs suck for a long time.
Basic cable. I'm a fan of baseball.
Right.
And the Cubs came on at a time that was convenient in my home where I didn't have to fight my dad for the remote. Because everyone assumes the default is the Braves, and the Braves came on TV too, but the Braves played primarily night games. So at night when I came home, my dad wasn't giving up the remote.
Right.
I'm watching Hunter. I got shit to do. I'm not. Google that one, kids.
Yeah, that'll be, and then erase it from your browser history.
So the Cubs came on, like I would get home from school and the Cubs would already be on TV. So I was like, all right, I'll watch this. And then you just watch it enough every day. You learn all the players, you fall in love with them. And then they won the NL East in '89.
Right.
And that's when I was like really committed. Like I was flirting with them up until then, but I was like, this team's a champion. They're going places. The Cubs got Greg Maddux. Oh, they're going to be great for a long time. No.
And then done.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I committed to him at that point. I snuck and wore a Cubs jersey for my senior portrait. My mom still hasn't forgiven me.
Oh, yeah. I could see. For your senior portrait, you wore a Cubs jersey?
Yeah, fuck it. I'm not wearing no tux. That's not what this is who I am. And like that, I stand beside that.
I don't blame you. You're a huge Star Wars fan.
I'm a casual, because here's the problem. You say huge, and then people start,
and then all of a sudden people look at you like you're. I get it.
I don't mind the Star Wars universe. I'm probably as big into Marvel as I am Star Wars, only because Marvel movies happen at a quicker clip.
Right.
in Star Wars, and I kind of feel like this last trilogy of Star Wars, they kind of watered down the dope a little bit, and trying to just, you can tell they're just trying to make a little bit of money and
They,
self-enjoy.
they watered down the dope. They cut the product too much.
Yeah, it was pure
cartel in Colombia.
Yeah, it was
adding more powdered sugar and flour, and they just kept cutting it and cutting it. Okay,
you keep snorting and snorting, but it ain't hitting like that old school, like in 1980. It's just not. This cocaine just does not do what it used to do for me.
If you were all right, you're as much into Marvel. If you were a Marvel superhero, what would your character be?
Ooh. I always enjoy, and this is going to sound racial, but I've always enjoyed like Luke Cage. I did a joke about this on my first special, just about how black superheroes just take their powers and go back to the hood and just do shit around the hood. Like they never give a fuck about the rest of the world. like how Luke Cage is like superpower. Luke Cage is basically the Hulk without the sides.
Right.
Same power set, same everything. But he never leaves Harlem. And that just makes me laugh so hard.
That is funny. I mean, anybody with enough money to get on the subway can get out of Harlem, and he can knock over buildings, and he just, I'm gonna stay here.
Yeah, he's just like, nah, I gotta stay. Nah. What about the world? Nah, my buddy didn't get a small business loan after COVID. I'm gonna beat the shit out of this banker. I'll be back.
That would be you. I can see you doing that. What? You've obviously done some. You've done some acting. I mean, what role would you like in a movie or a TV show?
Bill Burr he said something on his podcast years ago, where he said he doesn't want to carry a show. He just wants to kind of parachute in for a couple of episodes, have a good role, and get the fuck out of there.
Right.
And when you look at what Bill has done from, Breaking Bad to The Mandalorian, and like even now with his animated efforts for family, like it's very like, I'm here, but I get to be a little bit away.
Right.
I'm working on a pilot with Comedy Central where I play a probation officer, which I find is an interesting branch of law enforcement that people normally don't really talk about or explore.
Right.
So that kind of interests me, but I'm starting to become more obsessed with producing and writing. Like, right. I want to produce a baseball movie. I have one or two, I think, decent comedies in my head that I would like to do. I got a horror idea. Like, I'm more infatuated with that than I am being on camera. I hate to kind of swerve the question a little bit, bro, but like,
no, that's fine. I mean, it's
I
just
auditioned for shit. I mean, I was just in Better Call Saul. I played a public defender in Better Call Saul this season. So, hopefully they'll have me back for season 6. I don't know what, how the plots and all that shit will work themselves out. But like that part of it, I kind of enjoy. It's fun, but it's a lot more stressful when you're the one that's got to carry the show. I just think acting and producing, it's a different type of stress that I can manage. And I also think it keeps me a little closer to home more often.
Now, if you're going to write something, you got some kind of a baseball movie, you've got to have some need for a 50-year-old white Irish guy with a drinking problem to play like the pitching coach.
Oh, of course. Of course. And we'll have auditions, and I'll make sure to reach out to you.
Please reach out to me. You're like, I don't want to say that this role is made for somebody in particular. However,
you've got that
grizzle. I think you guys should. We got to put him on camera first, so y'all can take a look.
Yeah, you've got that grizzle. Back in my day, you could hit a motherfucker with a ball. He wouldn't bitch to the ump. Take a big chaw.
I can do that. And then that's exactly that's the role that like you're talking about. Come in there. I show up like every third episode.
Yeah, just pop
I'm
in
in
and
the
out.
bar, getting in a fight or getting thrown out or whatever, and I'm punching out the middle reliever because he's not doing his job. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
exactly. But everyone loves you because you take them all drinking.
exactly. Take the underage kids that are just coming up from AAA ball. Take them out for cocktails. What is you and I've done a bunch of crappy one-nighters back in the years and years ago. And would you ever go back to doing that?
If I had to, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't say that disrespectfully. I'm blessed enough to have enough opportunities where I can be a little choosier about where I perform.
Right.
But at the end of the day, and to bring it back to the Comedy Zone thing,
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of people that I open for who used to have a plethora of opportunities for themselves in the game. And
Right.
whatever happened, and now they're back to being on the road. And there's no shame in that.
Sure.
And I think for as long as there's people willing to listen to me talk, I'll go wherever those people are. Like there's certain rooms. I'll never shit on a city, but I will shit on a room. Because I want to believe there's good people.
I feel the same way
in a city, but there's certain rooms where I'm just like, this club owner is a terrible person. He does not care about the acts. And I honestly feel like that's probably what I'm going to be relegated to at some point in my career. I'm the guy that's going to bitch and moan about the way they treat other comics. And it's going to probably cost me a lot of gigs, and I'm going to have to book a lot of stuff myself. And whether or not that changes the game, I don't know. But,
yeah, but you know what? But you're in the spot where you can do that, which is cool. I mean, at least now you can go ahead and carve your own path. And I mean, any new act that's out there doing stuff now, or if you're trying to rely on these monster comedy club chains to keep opening rooms and keep you busy, that's just not going to happen. I mean, like you were talking about the indie scene and guys trying to go out and set up their own rooms and do their own thing. I mean, that's a lot more, I think, going to be a lot more prevalent as we were talking about some of these rooms not surviving coming out of this whole coronavirus thing.
I think there was a room. It wasn't Dothan, Alabama. It was like Ozark, Alabama.
Oh yeah.
Fuck it, they're probably closed. I can say what happened. It's the truth anyway. The MVP Sports Bar.
I've done this.
Is a Tuesday or a Wednesday night.
Yep.
And fine room, ran by fine people. They just didn't understand presenting live performance. So get down to the old sports bar to do comedy. And keep in mind, this is one of those quick flip gigs. So I'm not spending the night. I'm driving down, doing my shit, and I'm going right back home. Dothan is 3.5 hours from Birmingham. I walk into the MVP, and it's Lakers Sixers game 1 of the NBA Finals. And the game is on. The game is getting ready to tip off or whatever.
Right.
And they turn the TV off. And they say, it is time for comedy. And the fucking booze that rained down from that. And I'm emceeing, so I'm up first. So.
Oh, my God.
The lady is trying to calm them and going, listen, it's comedy. We have to do the comedy for the comedian and the comedy. We don't want to say comedy. Boo! She goes, okay, no comedy. She was a foreign woman. I don't know what accent I'm doing. I'm not going to tell you her race. That way you can't say which race I'm being racist against. But she did. She had an accent. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Whatever accent you think, that's what.
That's the accent that it was.
Yes.
Cool.
So she calls the comedians over to the corner. She goes, they do not want to see you. I will just pay you and good night. And me in the comments was like, fuck yeah. And some asshole comes over and goes, well, you know what you could do? You could just leave the game on mute and just let the comedians perform next to the TV. And you can see her wheels again And she goes, yes, we will do that. And I fucking stood beside a television as Kobe Bryant, Shaq, and Allen Iverson trudged up and down the court for 3. Like, I may as well have been performing next to a stripper. Nobody was listening. No one cared. And it got to the point where the only jokes you could do were jokes about what was happening on screen in real time.
Right.
Like, that was the only thing that you could joke about, man. It was insane.
Oh my God. So many of those fun, we joke about it now. It's like, everybody, you remember the fun gigs, but you also remember the ones that were just a complete nightmare. And those are the ones that are always great to have a beverage and share those stories, because you always crack up about something stupid that happened, man.
You remember it now. That was a long ass drive back home.
Oh man, dude, I am so happy for you. One of the great things in this business is seeing some cool people that you've been a fan of and loved working with just do well. And I'm so happy for your success with Comedy Central, the specials, also on the Daily Show with Trevor Noah. Man, I'm so happy for you. Good luck with everything, man. And we'll definitely keep in touch here and see you when you get back out here to Vegas, and hopefully connect when I get back to New York.
I'll see you at the check cashing blackjack tables.
We will be there. RoyWoodJr.com is his website.
Yeah, man.
Find the beautiful man. See him when he's in your neighborhood and look for him on Comedy Central. The Daily Show, Trevor Noah, Roy Wood Jr. You're awesome, buddy.
Thanks, man.